Hello and welcome to part 2 of how to construct a decent search string for medical databases PubMed. In the previous video, I talked about the general structure of a search string. Today, I explain the details of your search string, such as the PICO framework for your search string, the use of Boolean operators, and subject headings. I will explain how you know what terms to place exactly per search block, what these words mean, and what the words in brackets signify. In doing so, I will guide you step by step in how to construct a search strategy. First of all, how do you know which words to put in your search blocks? Well, a framework is typically used to delineate these concepts. This framework is called PICO. It stands for Population, Intervention, Comparison or Control, and Outcome. This framework is often used because it captures all the concepts you need in a research question for clinical research. Each letter stands for the subject of a research block. You can of course use other concepts and use another structure, but this is the easiest and most widely used framework for making search strings. So what you do is you start with a question. If you want to search literature, you must have a question. We will, for example, take the following question: is eating chocolate every day good for my heart? So we will fill out the PICO framework for this research question. First of all, what is the population? Well, in this case, I am a woman, so women. What is my intervention? It is chocolate, because my question is chocolate healthy if I eat it every day? I look for studies on eating chocolate, so I might want to look for studies with a control for no chocolate. If you know about research designs, you know that this is best to have a control group, so often we will specify a control group in the research question as well. This is actually the most difficult part of the PICO framework, so if this is too difficult to fill out, please don't bother with this category of the PICO. You can also leave it out, or you can put a comparison group here, but in my experience, it's definitely the least important category of the PICO. So here I would put as a control group no chocolate. So then what is left is the outcome. That is, what is the effect on my heart? So we will put heart here. Now we have all these concepts filled out. But this is not a good search strategy yet because it is not in the language of PubMed. To do so, we have to take a look first at Boolean operators, which are central to search strings. Important operators are and, or, and not. And you might think, oh, but I already know these. I use them in English all the time. Be aware, however, that these operators have a slightly different meaning than of the and, or, and not you use in everyday life. I will explain each operator now with an example. First of all, the operator and. And takes two terms and looks for the combination of these two terms and the combination only. It is like moussaka. You do not look for gratin, you do not look for pasta sauce, you look for the combination of the two, which is moussaka. The operator AND is almost always used to connect the different parts of the PICO framework. So to connect population, intervention, comparison, control, and outcome, you would put AND in between them, because you want to find papers that have and the population of women, and an intervention studied on chocolate, and a control that is no chocolate, and have heart outcomes. If you do this, if you connect this with and, it means that if the paper does not look at women, it will not come out of your results. So if you use the operator and, it has to include everything that you state. As you can see in the strategy we used as an example previously, here in search block number 6, we see that all the search blocks are connected with and. This is typically done in all search strings. We use and to connect all the search blocks. Then we have the operator or. If you use or, you say it doesn't matter if only one of both terms surfaces. If one surfaces, it's okay, then I will include it. Or is like Barcelona for me. It has everything. Or is mostly used within your search block to sum up synonyms. Or comes in handy because, as you can imagine, women is not the only word used to denote a woman. You can also use female, girl, you have the singular form, and you don't want to miss a paper just because it says female instead of women. So we put all these synonyms after woman with or to make sure we don't miss a paper. We use or because then all these words do not have to surface. If we would put and instead of or, we would only get a paper if it used and women, and female, and woman, and girl, which of course will not happen. Do you see how we now already have construed a basic search strategy for a question? It's not perfect yet, but there's already a sort of code that is resulting from our process. Make sure to place brackets to delineate your Boolean operators. Because, as you can imagine, if you do not delineate the concepts, the computer gets very confused because it will read or girl and chocolate, which means it will look for girl and chocolate or woman or female or women. Well, you do not want that. You want the concepts to be separately searched with and. So make sure per concept, per pico concept, to put a bracket. It is like in mathematics that you put brackets for your different parts of your equation. Last but not least, the last operator is not. And not is like a bully. It excludes things. This means you use not when you want to exclude a term from your results. For example, you might want to exclude chocolate sauce from your papers. Then at the end of your search string, we put not sauce, and this will make sure that any paper with the word sauce will be eliminated from your results. Can you see how the operators are here used similarly? We always use and in between the different pico blocks and or in between the blocks. You will not see an and in between the search blocks per pico block. Now, these were the Boolean operators. Something we haven't discussed yet is the specific structure within each search block for the terms, because you see here that there are different words used. There are certain brackets after the words with certain labels. I will explain to you lastly for this video what those mean. So in order to explain this, I want you to first imagine you are at the library and you want to find a crime romance novel. What is the first thing you do? For me, I would probably try and see if there is a crime romance section at the library, because then somebody already categorized these books for me, and it will be very easy for me because somebody else already did the work of the categorization. However, imagine I am in the library and there isn't yet a romance crime section. Imagine there isn't, then what I would do is I would go to the crime section and then look for the titles in the books that are there for words that indicate romance. That would be my strategy. So you can see in my example that I used a strategy of using predefined categories and using free words from the titles from the books. And this is actually exactly what we are also doing in a search block. In each search block, we use predefined categories and actual words. So those are the two types of words you use within a search block. Because there are already people who have categorized certain the papers according to certain categories. So we will make use of these fixed headings, subject headings they are called, or labels. And then of course you have a different category which is free text. And I will show you how to recognize these different categories. So you can recognize the fixed terms by brackets with mesh or measure or minor behind them. And the free text words have brackets with terms such as t-up or t or such behind them. Here I indicate the fixed labels or the subject headings in blue. These fixed labels are predefined categories. Someone at PubMed was so nice for us to already categorize. Now you might think, how do I find these categories? Because they are very specific terms, of course, if somebody already categorized them. Well, that's a very good question. You can find these at the mesh library. So in order to look for all the headings, all the categories that are present, you go to the mesh medical subject headings in the NCBI website. So you would then type in the word or a related word to your concept, and then you will receive results or related results. Here is an example for chocolate. So you can see here what the mesh heading is called with chocolate, also what entry terms you can use. Please note that you always have to use the brackets with mesh after your mesh term to indicate to the computer that you're using a mesh term, because otherwise if you do not put mesh behind it, it will think that you want to search for it as a free text term. So if you use a mesh term, always use the mesh specification, and make sure to also always check to see what the exact name is for your category, because people often make the mistake that they just invent a category, but it's like a pre-label, so you cannot just invent a category. It will just give an error and it will mess up your search strategy. So first always check in the mesh library what is the category actually called. So what rests then are the free text words. Free text words are the actual words in a paper that are being searched. Like I would search the words in titles for romance books, for example. With these words, you do not need to put brackets after the words. So you could just enter, like they put here, arterial flutter. But if you type the word without brackets, this means that PubMed will search all whole papers, so every last word of the papers for this word. You can imagine that even if it is a text on a completely different subject, maybe atrial flutter will be mentioned somewhere. So in order to select only relevant papers, a trick that is often performed is that we put t-up behind the free text word. This means that you only will search in the title and abstract of the paper. Because we know that if a word is important, it will be in the title or abstract, and it will be, if you therefore find a result for atrial flutter TAP, it will be a paper that looks at atrial flutter as a main issue. So you can put TAP or you can put T even, so TI, and it means then that you only even look in the title, so you can use that as well. So I just wanted to briefly mention that mesh and title abstract or TAP are not the only things you can put in bracket behind your terms. There are lots of them. Here is a short overview, and you can find explanations for all of these specifications on the website of PubMed. And I now circled and discussed the most important ones, but feel free to go online and to explore what the others mean, and it may help you in further specifying your search string. For example, publication type is a really handy one as well, but you can always check that out by yourself. So if we then combine our knowledge now on the fixed terms and the free text terms for our own search string that we are making for the research question on chocolate, then we see that we can actually, here for the first part of the search string, we can put the mesh term woman, because that is the name of the category, and then I can put again women as a free text term, because this is something people often forget because it's something separate. If you use the mesh term women, it doesn't mean you're searching as a free text term. So make sure to also put it as a free text term. And then I put TAP because I only want to look for this word in title and abstract. I also put some synonyms, and I also stated that I only want to look in title and abstract in order to get only relevant papers. Then I added the chocolate mesh term. I added the free text terms, chocolate, choco, cacao. Then I added no chocolate TAP. I didn't put a mesh term here because I didn't immediately find one. And then I put the hard for mesh category. And then I made a little mistake here. If you can spot the mistake, you see here that I made a bracket mistake. And this is very important to know that these mistakes are very important, because if you do a mistake like this, if I wouldn't correct this, so actually the bracket needs to be the other side, my search string would give an error, or it would be invalid from that point on. So be very careful in checking your strategy, but I will give some tips and tricks for you to see how you can check this, because there are some tricks to check if there's an error in your search string, because of course you can make mistakes, it's very normal, and there are tricks in PubMed to check if there's a mistake. So I don't know about you, but this was a lot, and I think it's always good to do a little quiz to make sure that you know that you understand everything. So here I put 2 questions together just for yourself to see, do I really understand this, what was said in this video. So the first question for this little pop quiz is, if I state Barcelona, and then between brackets TI, and Madrid, between brackets TI, in a search string, will I find then the following paper? So here I have the paper, A Smart City Initiative, the case of Barcelona. So the answer is no, we would not find this paper because we used the Boolean operator AND. And AND means you have to get everything. So in order, if we would want to find this paper with that search string, Madrid would have to be in the title too. So it would have had to be the case of Barcelona and Madrid, for example. If you would have wanted to find this paper, you could have also, you would have had to adjust your search strategy and use OR, because then it could be either Barcelona or Madrid. but it doesn't have both. So you stated now that it had to have both. So that's a very important misconception, the difference between and or. So you have to make sure that you get this distinction. Then the last question, the last quiz question. There are mesh terms in this strategy. Is that true or is that false? The answer is false. There are no mesh terms used in the strategy because we only have 3 text terms here, and that is totally possible. So you can only use mesh terms or only use 3 text terms. That's totally possible. However, we use the combination because it's more effective and because you will get more results. You use 2 different techniques because with either one of them, either with the label strategy or with the free text strategy, you have some margin for error. Because of course with free text, you might miss papers who do not mention the exact words that you put, because even if you put synonyms, you can always miss a word, or somebody can use a really obscure description of the topic you are looking for. So that's when the labels come in handy. But of course also the labels themselves are done by humans. That's also, errors can be made, and also the labels are not performed very quickly. So if a new paper is published, it is not immediately archived under a category. And with the free text, you can always find the most recent papers. With the labels strategy, no. So that's why it's just best to use the best of both worlds and use both the fixed terms, the categories, and the free text terms. So I hope that was helpful, and this was a better look into the specifics of a search strategy. And I know it's a lot, and there's actually so much more to say. There's I think you could teach a class of like 20 hours about only these search strings, like about all the terms you can use and all the labels you can use. But my point for these videos is really to give a brief overview of just the basics. So I keep it at that, and maybe I'll make more videos with more specifications, with more information. But for now, this is really the basic information you need to start with. Yeah, and in the following video, I will give some instructions on how you can check your search strategy and how you need to enter it in PubMed. So stay tuned and have fun constructing your search strings. Bye!